As soon as I go online, my narcissism comes out. Right, so we were speaking, what were we speaking about? There was hard bhakti.
Buddhism tribes. We finished other tribes, right?
Yeah.
Hard bhakti, Chota Haridas.
We talked about examples of renunciation of the reputation.
Okay, reputation, that was it, reputation. Thank you. Verse 73 of chapter 13 of Antya-lila. A little footnote here, the numbering of verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Of course, we have Srila Prabhupada's translation. How he has numbered is, I won't say it's not standard, but it's one of two ways of numbering. The other way of numbering is the Bengali verses get one numbering system, and then within a given chapter, any Sanskrit verses get their own numbering, which can be confusing. I mention that because there is a translation of the Chaitanya Charitamrita that's been published by Harvard University Press. It's one volume, very thick volume. It was translated by Edward Dimmock and Tony Stewart over several years. It's well done. Again, not by devotees, so it might come across as a bit dry sometimes. But it can be nice, useful as a kind of reference book. It has sometimes very useful footnotes with a lot of cross-referencing. And it also has an excellent, at least from a scholarly perspective, introduction, which is, I think it's over 100 pages, which includes within it a small section that gives you a kind of lesson in Bengali grammar to follow the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So you can actually, appreciate more the Bengali, the text. In any case, here we are, 3:13:73. Jagadananda Pandit offered obeisance to the Lord on behalf of Sanatana Goswami. So he's come back from Vrindavan, actually. Then he gave the Lord the dust from the site of the rasa dance along with the other gifts. So Sanatana Goswami said, "Oh, you're going back to Puri, please take these gifts and please offer my obeisance." Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu kept all the gifts except the pilu fruits, which he distributed to the devotees. Because the fruits were from Vrindavan, everyone ate them with great happiness. Because they were from Vrindavan. And this reminds me of another point. This goes into the category of KRK Swami's speculations. Just so you know. There's quite a lot of description of prasādam in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sometimes in quite some detail about particular preparations. So here's my theory. My theory is that Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj was feeling a bit homesick. He had been in Vrindavan all these decades and he was remembering some of these Bengali preparations. We can't get the same shock here in Vrindavan. So he's remembering them and he's writing about them.
It's one of the wonderful things about Chaitanya Charitamrita, all this prasādam distributions.
Yeah.
He's also writing poems about prasādam.
You're writing poems about prasādam? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Radhika prepared.
I'm curious. You know that Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote not one, but 6 prasad seva songs. Yeah. All right. So, pilu fruits. The hot chili-like taste burned the tongues of those who chewed the seeds. He knows that because he's been living in Vrindavan and he's no doubt tasted these pilu fruits. Which reminds me of something else. Our Dinabandhu Prabhu. Last time I was in Braj, we were staying at Govardhan, and we made a pilgrimage, an outing to, what is it called? Where all the cows are here. And maybe also where Indra Maharaj went. It's not Bakulaman. It's Bahir, no, not Bahir. Biharman. Thank you. Biharman. So we had, we were blessed by Dinabandhu Prabhu who came out. And I expected when he speaks, he'll speak about the cows. He didn't speak about the cows, not a word. He spoke about the trees, he spoke about the birds, he spoke about the flowers. And it was impressive how much he knew about all the different species. And I asked him, how do you know all this? He said, well, when he was staying at Vindakund, he stayed there for about 2 years apparently, when he was arranging for the renovation and so on. And while he was there, he was learning, I guess, from the local sadhus. So many things. Anyway, Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj knew certainly about the chili-like taste of chewing the seeds of the pilu fruits. Perhaps he had done it once himself. He says that the hot chili-like taste burned the tongues of those who chewed the seeds. Thus, the eating of pilu fruits from Vrindavan became a pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. Eating of the pilu fruits. It's a pastime. Okay, when Jagadananda Pandit returned from Vrindavan, everyone was jubilant. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu enjoyed his pastimes while residing in Jagannath Puri. One day, when the Lord was going to the temple for Yameshwara, a female singer began to sing in the Jagannath temple. Gujari Ragini Lainya Samud Sumadhura Share Gita Govinda Paro Gaya Jogamono Hare. She sang a Gujari tune in a very sweet voice, and because the subject was Jayadeva Goswami's Gita Govinda, the song attracted the attention of the entire world. Jagamana Hare, the mind of the entire world. Juregana Shuni Prabhur Ila Avesha Stri Purusha Kekai Najane Vishesha. Hearing this song from a distance, Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu immediately became ecstatic. He did not know whether it was a man or a woman singing. Stri Purusha Kegai Najane Vishesha. And Haila Abesha, this word is very interesting, Abesha. It comes from verbal root vish, which means to enter. And it's sometimes translated with the long A prefix as possession, as in being possessed by a ghost. And it comes up sometimes as a part of a compound in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, prema avesha. It was possessed by prema. So here he becomes simply avesha, he becomes possessed. Duregan shuni. And notice that hyphen after shuni. What does that indicate? Shuniya. Having heard. Or it can also be, as it's translated here, hearing, as an ongoing activity. Tare midibare prabhu aveshe dhaila pate shijjarbari hoy putiya cholila. As the Lord ran in ecstasy to meet the singer, thorny hedges pricked his body. Onge kanta lagilo, kichuna janila, ashte baste, govinda karo pachete dagila. Govinda ran very quickly behind the Lord, who did not feel any pain from the pricking of the thorns. Daya jayen prabhu stri ache olpadure stri gai bali govinda prabhure koila kole. Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu was running very rapidly and the girl was only a short distance away. Just then Govinda caught the Lord in his arms and cried, "It is a woman singing!" Stri guy. Stri nam shuni prabhu bhakya hoila punarapishe pote bahuri cholila. As soon as he heard the word woman, the Lord became externally conscious and turned back. There are many times when Mahaprabhu becomes unconscious, he faints, and then he comes to external consciousness. There's this he's going in and out of external, internal consciousness. So there's also this kind of fluidity. Yes, you have to go.
The nectar of your words is holding us back.
We're just reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, let's see if this gives a follow-up. Yes, Prabhupada. My dear Govinda, he said, you have saved my life. If I had touched the body of a woman, I would certainly have died.
No.
Ooh.
We need someone packing here.
Yeah.
Let's hear some women voices.
About the application today.
Yes. Do you want to comment?
Oh. I didn't hear the whole story yet.
Yeah. Well, in contrast, of course, there is another story where Mahaprabhu seems absolutely undisturbed, not just by being touched, but by being stood on by the eager lady, the unnamed lady who climbs up on his shoulder, and Mahaprabhu says, "It's no problem, it's okay, don't be upset." Who was it who was upset? One of the servants. Was it Govinda? It was another devotee. He says, just look at her eagerness to see the Lord. He's admiring this lady that she has such eagerness to see the Lord. So this I think makes a point about, a broader point about hermeneutics. There's a course, incidentally, which has been run just a few times, and I don't know that there's any further schedule, but I think all of you would appreciate it. Course on Vaishnava hermeneutics, which has been put together by the devotees in the ISKCON GBC Shastra Advisory Council. Anyway, it's nicely done. It's been worked on. It was worked on over a period of years, so it's quite thoughtfully done. I don't think it's the final word on the subject. They have a supplement with materials of more than 250 pages, I believe. But I think it's a good start. And a principle there is one of there's 24 principles, there's 40 what are called tools, and there are 6 qualities that one should inspect in oneself as one is interpreting Shastra. All the time understanding what does Srila Prabhupada mean when he says don't interpret. Anyway, then one principle has to do with seeing the whole picture of what is Shastra, so not just extracting something, as one might do here. In this case, seeing a kind of counterpart pastime of Lord Chaitanya. Yeah. So we're still kind of looking at our little chart, and in the next ring, the next circle out, we have Muslims. And I've located Muslims further out than Shaktas, Buddhists, and tribals, because I believe there is a sense in that culture that Muslim culture, Muslim ways, Muslim even, there's a sense of there being almost a different type of human being. Maybe not quite human. Yeah, there is that sense. In any case, there's certainly those who are not referred to as Muslim in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but rather generally as Yavana. And incidentally, it's been pointed out by Joseph O'Connell, Chaitanya Charitamrita is one of the first texts in which the word Hindu is to be found, and it's always in the context of a contrast, Hindu, Yavana. So this is from the early 17th century. The idea of Hindu as a designation it's a recent development. So, we have Muslims, so what episodes or what engagement, interactions, what persons do we have relevant to this category in Chaitanya
Chankazi.
Chankazi.
Chapter 18 of Madhya, the Lord's going from Vrindavan to Prayag.
Yes.
And they're stopped by Muslim soldiers, and he actually initiates those Muslims.
The Pathans. Yes.
Pathans, yes.
Yes. And the Chankazi. Yes. And who else? Haridas. Boro Haridas. He is considered to have been born in a Muslim family there's a tradition that says, no, he was born in a Hindu family,
Yeah.
but he was an orphan, and he was raised by Muslims. And there's another theory, which is that he was a Muslim, and he was a Muslim peer. And as a Muslim peer, as a Muslim sadhu, or a Sufi sadhu, he was especially inspired to chant Hare Krishna as a practice which is done, I think it's called zikr, in Sufi traditions of chanting names of God. Haridas liked to chant the name Krishna and Rama, and for that he got into trouble. In any case, certainly, of course, we know from Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj, chapter 3, I believe, of Antya-lila, that Haridas is highly honored by the Vaiṣṇavas. So much so, because when he dies, Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is present. When he dies, Chaitanya Mahāprabhu physically picks him up and dances with him. And not only that, he personally serves a feast in observance of the departure of Haridas. So, it's one thing for a Brahmin to touch a dead body. It's another thing for a Brahmin to touch a Muslim. For a Brahmin to touch the dead body of a Muslim, that's radical. Yes.
He was also given the offering plate at Advaitacharya's house.
Yes, he was the first one to receive the plate from the Shraddha ritual, which goes to the Brahmins. You can imagine the Brahmins all lining up with their big bellies. Yes, we're ready, you can serve us now. And then what does Advaitacharya do? He says, you just wait. And then he serves Haridas. Oh, welcome. Hare Krishna, welcome. Hare Krishna, welcome. We have lots of seats in the front if you want.
Oh, sorry. Yes, please, please.
Yeah, so he says, Prabhu Kohe, Govinda, Aji, Rakila Jiva, you've saved my life. Rakila, you protected my life. Sri Parasha, Hoyle, Amarita, Marana. I would have died. Yeah. But what is the point? The point is he is a sannyasi in that culture.
Yeah.
Very strict. Divisions are there, and he's honoring that. And I think there's something else going on here that Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj wants to emphasize to the Bengali Vaiṣṇavas that sannyas is a serious thing, and there could well have been lots of what came to be called sahajiya notions, which were sort of percolating and coming up in different ways at different times. There's a lot of sahajiya literature, and there's also literature which is where the line is very blurry. there are some obscure texts that Tony Stewart spoke about to us in Oxford recently, from later, from 17th, 18th century, possibly. But it's, I think, plausible that Kṛṣṇadāsa is concerned, and so he's also making such points like this. But I'm jumping around. Muslim, Haridas Thakur, honoring of Haridas. And the Pathan soldier story is interesting, and I find it rather humorous also. What happens? They've just left Vrindavan. They've only been in Vrindavan for about 2 months, after Mahaprabhu has been wanting to go to Vrindavan for such a long time. Basically, he took sannyas, and his idea was, I'm going to Vrindavan. And that failed. Why? Because there was a conspiracy. And the conspiracy was that he got derailed and taken to Advaitacharya's house. And what happens there? He meets his mother. And his mother says, what have you done? And Chaitanya Mahāprabhu says, I don't know, mother, I just, some crazy idea came in my mind. But it was too late. He's taken sannyas. And so she says, okay, well, you go to Puri, at least there's connection, I'll get news about you. All right. Then he goes to Puri, and then he doesn't stay there. He goes to South India. On the plea of searching for his older brother. Right? Any case, so he's just left Vrindavan, and what happens? He hears there's cowards. I mean, this is, there are cowherd boys. And what do cowherd boys do? Sometimes they play on their flute, because there's not a whole lot to do out there with the cows. So he hears a cowherd playing on his flute, and what does he do? He immediately thinks it's Krishna playing on his flute. He has this problem. If he sees a hill, he runs for it. If he sees water, he runs for it. Because he always thinks it's Vrindavan, and it's Krishna, and so on. So, and he faints, and then come these soldiers, and they immediately think, aha, he's a Bengali, and these other guys, they've done something to him, and they're robbing him. So they're actually on Mahaprabhu's side, so to say, and they think the others are some rascals. And then Mahaprabhu wakes up. He tends to do that. He faints, and then he tends to wake up, and he doesn't know what's going on. And then everything gets clarified. Oh, he is a sanya, he has, sometimes he faints, we're trying to take care of him. He hears the flute and he faints, what to do? And then they have the discussion, this interfaith dialogue with the peer, who is not named. And they discuss, as very similar parallel actually to the discussion with the Chankaji. It always goes to the point of meat eating and to the point of what does it say in the Quran. As you mentioned, they become converts, so to say. Now, I have heard that the Pathans are actually Afghanis. And I have heard that there are Afghani Vaiṣṇavas.
Really?
who may have been descended from the Patans.
Wow.
Yeah, Shivatsa Goswami in Vrindavan told me they were Afghan. Yes. Okay, Muslims, and then we come finally to the outermost circle, and here I've put together animals, plants, objects, and substances. What do all these have in common?
Oh, I was going to answer the question. But they all, so many of them receive the mercy of the Lord.
They hear the holy names.
Yeah.
Mahāprabhu chants for them.
Okay, yes. Anything else?
Sometimes prasādam they'll give, or they'll get some remnants.
Uh-huh.
They're not
okay.
human beings.
They're not humans. That was brilliant.
I mean, you said earlier that I know everything.
Now I'm fully convinced. So, what I found in common about these is that there is a special intensity of emotion in Chaitanya Mahāprabhu in relation to the animals, the plants, the objects, the substances. There's a kind of intensity, which is interesting considering where is this circle? It's the outermost circle. It's the furthest away, you could say, from the center. But it's the furthest away only in external terms, because Chaitanya Mahāprabhu brings these substances right into the center through his emotions. So I thought we could read some of this especially fun pastime at Charitamrita. Ke havume pore, ke ha koraye chitkar, dakti bhakta charger, mane hoye chamatkar. There comes the chamatkar again. Some of the elephants fell to the ground, and some screamed in ecstasy. Seeing this, Balabhadra Bhattacharya was completely astonished. Bhakte jaite kare prabhu uccha sankirtan madhura kanta dani shuni aishemrigigam. Sometimes Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu chanted very loudly while passing through the jungle. Hearing his sweet voice, all the does came near him. So again, this is something to picture. And there have been, of course, some nice paintings done of this pastime. And I may have one we can look at later that I like. Dahine bame dhani shuni jai prabhu shange prabhu taro anga mukhe shloka pare range. Hearing the Lord's great vibration, all the does followed him left and right. While reciting a verse with great curiosity, the Lord patted them. Here comes again some of this devotional intertextuality. Danyasma mudamatayopi harinya etan yaknanda namapata vichitra vesham akarnya venuranitam saha krishna-ksetra pujam datur virachitam pranayavalokai. Blessed are all these foolish deer, because they have approached Maharaj Nanda's son, who is gorgeously dressed and is playing on his flute. Indeed, both the does and the bucks worship the Lord with looks of love and affection. So, yeah, this is of course, from the gopis in their, this is the Song of the Flute, isn't it? Chapter 21. And what's interesting, a lot of things can be interesting about this verse, but that it's inserted here, so to say. Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj, was Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj present when Lord Chaitanya was there in the forest? Was Sarv Damodar there? Was Rai Ramananda there? None of them were there. Who was there? Balabhadra Bhattacharya and one Brahmin servant who is not named. How did this story get communicated? We don't know. I think we have to give credit to Balabhadra Bhattacharya. Somehow he must have told someone when he got back to Puri. In any case, what is going on here? And he's describing that all the deer are coming to Lord Chaitanya, and then Lord Chaitanya is remembering the gopis appreciating Krishna, to whom all of the deer are coming, suggesting that Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is himself feeling himself to be Krishna. Okay. Hanokale Bhadra Tota Ailapancha Sato Bhadra Mrgi Mili Chole Mahaprabhu Sato. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was passing through the jungle, 5 or 7 tigers came. Joining the deer, the tigers began to follow the Lord. At some point, we might have some doubt. Did this really happen? And I think what Kṛṣṇadāsa wants us to do is completely suspend our disbelief and say, look, try to understand, Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is really somebody special. Actually, he's unique. And these are illustrations of how unique he is. And if he is so powerful, and if his chanting is so powerful, certainly he can also attract the animals as well. Daki Mahaprabhu Vrindavana Smriti Hoila Vrindavana Guna Varnana Shloka Padina. Seeing the tigers and deer following him, Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu immediately remembered the land of Vrindavan. He then began to recite a verse describing the transcendental quality of Vrindavan. And now we go back into the Bhagavatam. Yatra naisarga durvaira sahasan mrigadaya mitrani vachitavasa drutta-ruttarshana-dikam. Vrindavan is the transcendental abode of the Lord. There is no hunger, anger, or thirst there. Though naturally inimical, human beings and fierce animals live together there in transcendental friendship. Notice which chapter of the Bhagavatam this is in. Chapter 13. What is chapter 13?
It's Lord Brahma stealing the cows and cows.
Yes, there's been some theft, some serious theft. But what happens at the end of this chapter? Lord Brahma is exposed to what's really going on. He thinks he has stolen some cows and cows, when actually so much more has happened, and he's come face to face with this reality of who is Krishna. And so that Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is remembering this. He's remembering. And this is a major point of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is that it's telling two stories. Or rather, it is a replay, in many respects, of the story of Krishna in Vrindavan. It's a replay in which Krishna appears and all of his associates. And they appear as so many of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu's associates. But this understanding, as is pointed out again by Professor Stewart, is something which the devotees worked out over time. So Kavi Karnapura, he wrote the Gauragana Deshandipika, in which he lists the names of devotees of Chaitanya's time and identifies them from Krishna's time. But sometimes in those lists he says, some people say that such and such was such and such. And he doesn't reject that idea. He says there may be different opinions. So it seems there was a process of working out who is who. In any case, here we see, as expressed by Kṛṣṇadāsa, he is Krishna himself, and he's remembering Vrindavan, and he's remembering, in this case, through Lord Brahma, through the Bhagavatam. So again, he's the perfect reader or listener or rememberer, reciter of the Bhagavatam. In this case, he's reciting the Bhagavatam in rather unusual circumstances. He's in a jungle with tigers and deer, and the tigers are not eating the deer. And he's seeing this, and what does he remember? He remembers Lord Brahma saying about Vrindavan, Vrindavan is the transcendental abode of the Lord. There is no hunger, anger, or thirst there. Though naturally inimical, human beings and fierce animals live together there in transcendental friendship. He's not yet in Vrindavan. He's in what is now a new state called Jharkhand, south of Bihar. Bihar. But Mahaprabhu feels he is in Vrindavan. And this is another point, is although Mahaprabhu is in Vrindavan for such a short time, the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita is about it's about remembering Krishna in Vrindavan through Lord Chaitanya, who is always longing. He's either going to Vrindavan or to be in Vrindavan. When he's in Puri, what is he doing? And he's longing to be there. And the longing is intense that toward the end of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he seems to be going seriously mad. Krishna Krishna kaha kori jabe bolilo Krishna kahi Bhagramriga nachite lagila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu said, chant Krishna Krishna, the tigers and Krishna and dance.
In their respective animal languages.
He doesn't say that, does he? But yes, possibly in their respective animal languages. How does a tiger chant Hare Krishna? Anyone want to venture imitation? I think you got it.
about deer?
Oh.
And the deer?
Hearing that rendition.
There you go. We got it. Nache kunde bhakti mritigana shange balabhadra bhattacharya deke apurva ronge. When all the tigers and does danced and jumped, Balabhadra Bhattacharya saw them and was struck with wonder. This time, translation of apurva ronge. Apurva means without precedent, means never before. And range means amazement, perhaps. Okay, then Bhakramriga Annone Kore Alinkan Mukke Mukka Diyal Kore Annone Chumban. Whoa, now it gets serious. Indeed, the tigers and deer began to embrace one another, and touching mouths they began to kiss. Who are we to deny that it is possible?
I just never thought that that was something that was transcendental. That's the more shocking piece to me. That it can happen, yes, but that it would be transcendental, that's more challenging.
If I cannot eat you, at least can I kiss you? Oh my God.
So I want to continue with that sequence, but where am I here? Because Mahaprabhu then expresses very amazing his happiness. Yeah, I won't read the Bengali. When Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu saw all this fun, he began to smile. Finally, he left the animals and continued on his way. Then there's description of the birds following him, peacocks. They're also dancing. The trees and the creepers are also jubilant when he chants Hari Bol. And like this, everyone becomes maddened. And then he goes into villages, and that's where he meets these tribals, the Mils. When someone heard the chanting of the holy name from the mouth of Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, and someone else heard this chanting from that second person, and someone again heard this chanting from the third person, everyone in all countries became a Vaiṣṇava through such disciplic succession. Thus everyone chanted the holy name of Krishna and Hari, and they danced and cried and smiled. Now that's interesting that Prabhupada translates in that way. I don't know that we have, we do have paramparaya. The word parampara is often translated disciplic succession. But it can mean just succession. But Prabhupada is, and Kṛṣṇadāsa is saying, this is a disciplic succession, which has a potency in which someone is inspired to chant Hare Krishna, that person is able to inspire someone else, and that person someone else. Interesting, isn't it? That he's suggesting so much from this. Yes.
So is it like, Krishna describes in chapter 4 to Arjuna at the beginning, the disciplic succession in due course of time gets broken?
Right.
Because I grew up in one part of India where Mahaprabhu traveled through, and I can assure you that no one there chants Hare Krishna even when I was a child. And maybe today they do because of ISKCON, but back then they did not. So how do we understand that all these people, they connected to Mahaprabhu and then someone connected to that person and so on and so forth, but then ultimately it must have got broken.
It fizzled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the time factor. And maybe some other sadhu comes in and says, "What are you doing chanting that mantra? You should chant my mantra." A lot of possibilities. And in the process of that transferring, maybe someone is doing it because they heard, "Oh, this is nice, I feel good doing it." Okay, you'll also feel good. But after some time, the theology is lost. Why are we doing this? I don't know why I'm doing it. Yeah, so yoga brashta becomes lost. Okay, let's see, I'm speeding up a little. He toured Bengal in this way. Oh yeah. When Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu passed through the Jharkhand forest, he took it for granted that it was Vrindavan. When he passed over the hills, he took it for granted that they were Govardhan. Similarly, whenever Chaitanya Mahāprabhu saw a river, he immediately accepted it as the river Yamuna. Thus, while in the forest, he was filled with great ecstatic love, and he danced and fell down crying. And then he describes how Balabhadra Bhattacharya would gather spinach and so on from the forest, and he would cook for him. They would meet Brahmins in the villages.
5 or 7.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about that actually. Do you have any background on that term, like 3 or 5, 5 or 7? It comes up repeatedly. And we, in English, we would commonly not skip a number, but say 2 or 3, 4 or 5, 10 or 11. I'm just curious if there's
5
any.
to 7. In the translation was 4, but word by word was said 5 to 7. So I don't know if it was.
Which verse was this? That was further back.
It was further back. It comes up several times. That it seems like it's an expression. I'm just curious if there's anything.
It was just numbers. It's
Yeah.
2, 2, 4.
Yeah, but the one you're referring to, it says like it's 5 or 7.
Mhm.
You know, it's
Yep.
not 5 or 6, it's 5 or. 'Cause
Yeah.
2
Oh,
to
2 or
4.
4 days? Okay.
That makes sense, but if it's, scroll up a little, it's 5 or 7.
Well,
Chari.
Duichari means 2 or 4. I don't know, to say Dui teen, I think it's just a conventional way of saying, more or less, we don't know exactly how many, in this case, days, for some days.
Or 3 or 5 animals.
Yeah,
Never 4.
never.
I think you got it.
I was wondering also about the dog in Shivananda Sena's party, that he was treated with so much respect.
Yeah.
And he also sang Hare Krishna.
He also, yes,
Hare
Hare Krishna, and got the coconut poke. Now, we need to ask somebody to give us the sound of a dog chanting.
Hare Krishna!
That was not the dog.
I've heard my guru chant that.
Yeah,
Radhanath Swami.
Depends
So
on.
Oh, yeah.
Krishna, Krishna.
That was a cat.
Parrot?
You're getting good guidance.
Barking over there.
So, the Lord used to bathe 3 times a day in the warm water of the waterfalls. I don't know if there are waterfalls in that area now. He'd heat himself with a fire made with the limitless wood. Okay, this is what I wanted to go to. another theme of Chaitanya Charitamrita, appreciating the Vaishnavas. Here is Chaitanya Mahāprabhu saying, "My dear Bhattacharya, I have traveled very far through the forest and I have not even slightly received any trouble. Krishna is very merciful, especially to me. He has shown his mercy by bringing me on this path through the forest. Thus, he has given me great pleasure. Before this, I decided to go to Vrindavan and on the way see my mother, the river Ganges, and other devotees once again. I thought that once again I would see and meet all the devotees and take them with me to Vrindavan." He wanted to take devotees with him. "Thus I went to Bengal and I was very happy to see my mother, the river Ganges, and the devotees." Speaking of river Ganges, I once, years ago before, I don't think he would mind my quote referring to this, I once asked Chaitanya Maharaj when he was really traveling intensely all over before he had health problems. And I said, "How do you do it, Maharaj?" And he said, "It's very simple. I make a point to go back to Mayapur at least once a month and bathe in the Ganga." That gives me strength. We saw him swim across the Ganga once, many years ago. Yeah, during Parikrama. However, when I started for Vrindavan, many thousands and millions of people gathered and began to go with me. Thousands and millions. Laksha Koti. So Laksha means 100,000 and Koti means 10 million. But there is a comment from Jiva Goswami to one of the verses in the beginning of the Brahma Samhita. In the verse, it refers to Sahasra, means 1,000. I think this was the 1,000 petals of describing Goloka. And Jiva Goswami says, Sahasra, it means many. Doesn't have to mean 1,000, one more than 999. It means many. So in any case, Laksha Koti means, and of course in Bengal, we see today, when there's something interesting happening, there can be a very big crowd. And they can assemble very quickly. I've been part of a little distribution of prasādam in Sharupganj, or the next village over, I forget the name. And the word spreads really fast. They're distributing khichdi. So many people. So, but I wanted to, here he gives, he appreciates, what am I doing? I want to go, okay, this is 73, okay, I don't like to do this, chapter 17. Better way to do this, 73. That he appreciates Sanatan for saying, better not, don't do that, don't go with all these people. He says, through the mouth of Sanatan, Krishna taught me a lesson. Thus, by making some impediment, he has brought me to Vrindavan on the path through the forest. Hare Krishna. So, time is passing, and I just wanted to say something about the last chapter, Antya-lila. This is where we have Mahaprabhu reciting, or we can say composing and reciting the Shikshastakam. And it is here that we get the sense of how he feels as he's reciting. And the emphasis is on his feelings of humility. His feelings of humility. There's an explanation for each of the verses which are in Sanskrit. He gives explanation in Bengali. So for example, text 31, in great humility, considering himself a conditioned soul of the material world, Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu again expressed his desire to be endowed with service to Krishna. So Kṛṣṇadāsa is letting us appreciate Mahaprabhu as one who actually feels himself to be what he is expressing. In other words, we could have just taken all of these verses as shiksha, as instruction for us. But it goes into, there's a deeper sense. There's a sense of Mahaprabhu actually feeling like this himself. And I think this gets us sort of back to another major sort of theme which is running through the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that is that there's this kind of tension, a creative tension, if you like. On the one side there's Dasya Bhava, and on the other side there's Ishvara Bhava. But the Ishvara Bhava of Mahaprabhu being Ishvara, of course, is always a problem because bhakti is on the side of the Lord, not about being the Ishvara. It's about forgetting that he's God. It's about reciprocating with his devotees in ways that the power of love becomes the primary power, right? So that's being, I think, instantiated here. And another point, speaking about instantiation, you know this word, to instantiate something is to be a specific case of something. Srila Prabhupada used the term the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however many times he did, thousands of times. And with the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we get an instantiation of the personality of Godhead, of the person, the personhood, the being a person of the Supreme Lord. And another way to think of this, though, is, so we are all persons, and we, in our lives, express our personage, our personhood, in our interactions with all of those that we interact with and with the world. And what we get in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is a window into what might be the unfolding to the fullest extent of personhood. There's in philosophy of religion, there are those who speak about, they're called personalists. There are European scholars, thinkers, also in America, and there's a group, they meet occasionally, and they have conferences about personalism. And so I was invited to attend one of these conferences in Sweden some years back. 3 of us devotees, because another devotee was involved with them and he invited us. And we had a plenary session, of everyone in the conference, and we were given the floor, so to say, three of us to present. Myself, Pranava Prabhu, and HH Krishna from Israel. So I spoke about Lord Chaitanya as instantiating full personhood. And instantiating means, well, what did he do? What did he say? What did he not do? What did he not say? We want to know, because that becomes then, in some respects, a model for what it means to be a person. Did that make any sense? It's a little abstract.
Maybe if you can give an example when you say like that, this represents personhood.
Okay, personhood it's a concept. It's just a concept, it's abstract. And what do you mean by person? Well, there's been a lot of books of different theologians in the Christian tradition. For example, they articulate an elaborate theology of Trinity, in which they say that divinity is constituted of three persons. And, you can go back in the history of the word person, and you go to the Greeks with persona, and what was persona? Well, it was a mask. It was for the performance of dramas. That was a persona. And but then you trace it back up to modern times, and you get what we might want to say is a richer understanding of what is a person. But it's still abstract, it's still conceptual. And so to instantiate, you could say, well, we're all instantiating. What's the problem? We're all persons, right? You want to know what a person is, talk to your next door neighbor. You can get an idea what a person is. And talk to your sister, your mother, your partner, whatever. What I want to say is with Chaitanya Charitamrita, considering the whole theology which he builds of identifying him as Krishna, in the mood of Krishna's devotee, what we have with all the details, all the incidents, all the humorous things, all the running after a woman who is singing Gita Govinda, getting grabbed. I just really like that scene. I imagine Govinda tackling. So what are you doing? You were going to touch this. Thank you, you see. All of these things, somehow it all builds up to become this amazing person, and this person is also living within the world of the Bhagavatam. He's living inside a text called the Bhagavatam, and then he's bringing that text out to the world also. Not only to people, but also to tigers and elephants and deer and birds and everything. How wonderful that is. Right. Well, on that note, I think it's time to do some more singing. Shall we sing what's in our last? Let's see, we have Halo So this brings us back to Nadia. Nadiyar Bhate Bhai Ki Adbhuta Tari Nitai Galuya Kate Chaitanya Kandari Oh, brothers, at the Nadia Ghat is a wonderful ferry boat. At the bow stands Nitai, and Chaitanya is the captain. Chaitanya is the captain. Dui Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal, Shri Rupa Sanatan. I put those Shris in parentheses because they don't scan the word. Parer Nauk Nau Kai Era Nandi Chai Jonok. The two Raghunaths, Shri Jiva, Shri Gopal, Shri Rupa, and Shri Sanatan, are the 6 oarsmen in the boat. Ke Jabi Bhai Baba Hare Nitai Dake Keyar Kari Nina Har Kore Jake Take. Nitai loudly calls, "Oh, my brothers, who amongst you will cross the ocean of birth and death without paying even a single paisa? One and all may cross to the other shore. Atare katara vina ke par kore bhai, kintu par kore shove Charitamrita." Since one does not have to take any trouble to pay the boat fare, who will not cross the ocean? Chaitanya and Nitai will take everyone across. Kṛṣṇadāsa bole bhai, bolo hari hari, Nitai Chaitanya ghate nahi lage kari. Kṛṣṇadāsa says, "O brothers, please chant Hari Hari at the ghat of Nitai and Chaitanya. No payment is required." This is from some Kṛṣṇadāsa. We don't know which Kṛṣṇadāsa. There's any number of Krishnas. Hare Nitai Bye. Unless anyone has a burning question or there, we've just made some quick journey through the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and of course, we could say the aim would be to inspire you to revisit and reread and relish the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the other Chaitanya Bhagavat, all the. We didn't say anything about the Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka. It's a wonderful drama from Kṛṣṇadāsa. Yes.
Let's please give a big round of applause. Love for Maharaj to come back and spend more time at Bhakti Center, giving us all of us, his association, say Hari Bol. Hari Bol! You are being summoned, Maharaj.
Summoned.
Maybe you could make it a 6-monthly thing. Chaitanya Charitamrita this time, Chaitanya Bhagavat next time, Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yeah.
We've got big ideas for you, Maharaj.
So
getting implicated. There's something which we didn't read. I wanted to read aloud. It's a little excerpt from Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka, and it's it's a drama. It's a dialogue. So shall we do that now?
Maybe with Yadana.
Since we have Yadana, I think Yadana, if you could read, you could be Malla Bhakta. Yeah. And okay, it's just the one page. The king referred to here is Prataparudra. Malla Bhakta is not referred to in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I know that. But the scene is going on apparently in the court of King Prataparudra, where he's hearing about Chaitanya Mahāprabhu's adventures in the south. So, who wants to be the king? We need a king.
You sure that you have a loud voice?
Okay, yes, you're a king, and we need a Sarvabhauma.
Good.
Okay, we have Amrita. All right, start out, king number 99.
Is the king of Karnataka well and happy?
Because he has friends like your good self, therefore he is always in an auspicious condition of life. However, now one very auspicious thing has happened to him.
What is that?
O great king, on the pretext of going on pilgrimage, a certain regal sannyasi, his complexion the color of molten gold, came from this country to the south. His presence in the south filled the king of Karnataka with bliss.
Bhatta, go on speaking. Go on speaking.
What is it?
As in the north, in the south, there are many Karmis, many Gyanis, a few Vaiṣṇavas, very many Shivites, and many blasphemers. The leaders of these different groups engage in bitter debate, each attempting to establish the supremacy of his own view. This situation made our king very anxious.
Then?
When this regal sannyasi entered the south, young and old all became struck with wonder. When the brahmanas, eager to see him, approached and saw the splendor of his transcendental form, without any prompting, they thought to themselves, when will I become like that? At that time, they become overwhelmed with ecstatic love. The hairs of their bodies stood erect, and tears flowed from their eyes. They all gave up the various theories they had previously accepted, and they all became followers of this sannyasi. When our king heard of this, he became overwhelmed with bliss. To learn the specific details of this sannyasi's activities, the king disguised himself as an ordinary citizen and approached the brahmanas. When he heard from their mouths of this sannyasi's wonderful activities, traveling to and from Setubandha, the king became overwhelmed, and he completely forgot that he was staying in the forest fire of repeated birth and death.
Minister, your king is fortunate.
What? What did he hear? Tell us.
Oh, minister, please tell us.
One day, absorbed in transcendental bliss, his garments wet with tears, and his hairs of his body standing up as kadamba flowers in bloom, overcome with bliss, in a choked voice, he chanted the Lord's holy name as he walked on the road. Seeing him, some atheists said to themselves, "This is a Vaiṣṇava. He will accept alms from us if we tell him that this is Bhagavad prasādam." The atheists then took some impure food, fit only for dogs, and placed it before the sannyasi, saying, "Oh Swami, please accept this Bhagavad prasādam." Even though he knew all that had happened, when he heard the words Bhagavad prasādam, he could not reject it. But instead, he took the plate of food in his hand. At that moment, a great bird swooped down, took the plate from his hand, and with the plate in its beak, flew away.
This is the greatness of the illusory potency. Even the great demigods controlling the universe are bewildered by the illusory potency Maya. Certainly, Maya can easily bewilder the tiny creatures of this world.
So, my thanks to all of you for coming, for participating, for being enthusiastic, for encouraging, being all that you are. And thank you again. Thank you.